Hi, I'm Naledi Goloi, clinical lead at Lira Wellbeing Botswana. We are in the month of September and commemorating it as the month of suicide awareness and prevention. So what we have observed is that most times when people are considering suicide, for them it comes as a way to relieve a certain burden, or a burden from themselves, or a burden from the people that are surrounding them. And what we've realized is that you'd find that somebody would say, I'm tired, I can't do this anymore. And for them, they consider suicide as a resolution to a problem. They think it's a way to relieve, or it comes as an option, a solution to a problem. So that's something that is quite prevalent, or something that we find amongst people that are suicidal. And you'd find that this person would tend to isolate themselves a lot. They would tend to even start letting go of certain things that they own, certain things that are quite valuable to them. They will start even preparing their family members. Let's say it's a mother, they'll start making sure that they connect their children to maybe a very close family relative as a way to wean them off and think, if I'm not here, this child at least would have somebody that can take care of them. Or if it's a partner, you'd find that they tend to, encourage you to connect with other people so that when they're not here, at least they would know that you have somebody that could take care of them. Or they withdraw from other people as a way to not burden them with having to feel the pain of having lost such a strong connection between them and that person. So that's something that's quite common amongst people that are suicidal. Yes, in most cases, you'd find that people associate suicide with mental disorders such as depression or any other mental disorders. But what we have noticed is that suicide usually occurs as an act of a moment. It comes from impulsivity in most cases, where somebody is feeling a certain way and they want to relieve that feeling right there and there, and you'd find that people end up committing suicide out of impulse. The other thing that we have noticed is that suicide is usually associated with vulnerable groups. Vulnerable groups can include, as I've said before, people that are suffering from mental disorders, people that are suffering from severe illnesses or chronic illnesses that are quite painful, or people that have disabilities where they feel isolated, or they feel they don't belong, and they tend to think that suicide is an option to escape the burden or to escape the heaviness of having to carry a life that is associated with being different. The other thing that I could talk about around suicide is the fact that in Botswana, we've seen numbers rising and rising. But funny enough, when I was going through old statistics, I saw that suicide used to be quite prevalent around 2010. And as much as it's on the rise these days, it seems like there has been a decline from 2010 to now. But now we're seeing that it's also peaking, because at the moment we're having around 16.1 per 100,000 population of our people in Botswana, and that's quite high. It's quite high and sad. We hope that people could consider other options when they think of the burden that life has to carry. And when addressing life problems or when addressing suicide, we hope that as a nation, we could normalize the idea of talking about suicide and considering it as something that other people do consider, and we don't make the topic around suicide a taboo, because for other people, they can see it as an option. So us talking about the fact that it being an option is not so much of a healthy thing can normalize coming up with other healthier options for other people to consider and not end up giving into impulse. The other thing that we can do is also just being available for people that are suicidal, being in a position where you bring them closer to you, you let them know that anytime when they are having these thoughts, they can come and talk freely about them and move on to the next stage of saying, okay, I'm feeling this way, I'm feeling pressured, I feel like I am a burden to people, but let me see what else I can do. As much as I'm considering suicide, let me see what else I can do. So if we could do that, I think maybe we could move to something, because this will be a relief for somebody that's feeling suicidal. Then the other thing that we have to be watchful for is the fact that when most of the times we've realized that people that do end up committing suicide have actually attempted before. So whoever has attempted suicide before, take them as a high risk and always be on the watch for them. Take better care of them. Make sure that their surroundings do not have anything that is that they can use as a lethal method. For instance, if somebody has attempted suicide before, or they've shared suicidal ideations, if they do have medication that they're using for anything, it can be a chronic illness, it can be pain medication, it can be even depression, make sure that such a person, you are in charge of their medication. They shouldn't have excessive amount of medication around them. Make sure that there isn't any other lethal methods like your disinfectants, your poisons, any kind of poison, even those that are just household or poisonous liquids. Make sure that such a person is not in excess of anything that could be lethal. Even knives, make sure that that person doesn't have knives in their house, especially at the peak of their ideation. And make sure that that person is not always in isolation. You're constantly checking on them. You're constantly making them know that it's okay, for them to be around you, and they don't need to be isolated. So that's the main thing that you can do. And we're not only saying that people that have attempted are the ones that should be taken care of. Any other person that you have seen signs that are related to suicidal behavior signs, make sure that you do something to just keep them on your watch. And it's okay. Most people, one other thing that I've observed is that people that are suicidal are okay with the support. Don't feel bad about being watchful on them because they are actually okay with the support. I'm happy that September is giving us the opportunity to talk about suicide in exclusivity, but I'm hoping that we can always normalize conversations around suicide, normalize supporting each other so that we don't end up losing lives to suicide. It's okay to constantly check in on each other. It's okay to allow life to be explored in other ways, to not always think that the end to it is ending life. And this can be expanded to conversations when we are raising our children, to conversations with anyone that we see as maybe indirectly being suicidal, because we have seen that suicide can be something that people do indirectly by living unhealthy life, or lives that you see that this one is heading south. So let's normalize conversations that have to deal with mental health and suicidal ideations. Thank you.